Everything you see in your world is a mirror reflecting the state of your inner consciousness. The world, with all its appearances, conditions, and circumstances, is not the cause but the result. The secret to creating your reality is not outside in events, people, or even effort. It is inside you, within the unseen movements of your imagination and belief. You are not a passive observer of life. You are its author, and what you dare to assume is true within, life must echo without. Imagination is not a daydream or idle fancy. It is the creative force that shapes your life. When you imagine something vividly and persistently, you impress it upon the subconscious mind, and the subconscious, which is infinite in power and faithful to the impressions it receives, will express that idea into the world of form. Every change you want to see in your life begins not with action, but with an inner act of assumption. You must live mentally in the end of the desire already fulfilled. Think from the state of the wish being true, not of it. For when you think from it, you are one with it, and what you are one with must unfold in your experience. The moment you occupy the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you activate the unseen forces that orchestrate events, people, and timing to reflect that state. The outer world bends to the inner image. You do not need to know how it will come to pass. That is not your concern. Your only task is to remain loyal to the unseen reality you have chosen to inhabit. Do not waver, do not be distracted by appearances. Appearances are always the past. What you are seeing now is only the echo of old beliefs. To change your future, you must change the assumptions you accept now. It is your inner conversations, your silent beliefs, your unspoken convictions that create the framework of your life. You are never a victim of circumstances. You are the cause. The world rearranges itself to reflect your persistent state of being. This is the divine law. What you feel as true within, even if denied by reason and the senses, will become your experience if you persist. You do not have to beg, force, or manipulate. You only have to accept the truth of what you desire as though it already is. Imagination, when sustained and believed, becomes reality. Dwell often in the atmosphere of your fulfilled desire. Walk as the one who already has what they seek. Speak from that state. Think from that state. React from that state. Your reality is not happening to you, it is happening through you. The secret lies not in outer struggle, but in inner acceptance. Your consciousness is the root. The world is the fruit. Change the root and the fruit must follow. What you experience in the outer world is never random, never detached from your own inner being. Every person you meet, every situation you face, every repeated pattern in your life is a reflection, a mirror held up to show you what you believe, what you assume, and what you feel consistently within. The world is not happening to you. It is responding to you. It is echoing the state of your consciousness. And until you grasp this truth fully, you will keep trying to manipulate the mirror instead of changing the image it reflects. You may try to fix situations, chase outcomes, or even try to force people to change. But it is futile. The external cannot change in a lasting way until there is a shift within you. The root, the cause, the foundation always lies in consciousness. If you believe the world is hostile, you will encounter hostility. If you feel unworthy, you will attract experiences that reinforce that belief. If you live in the vibration of fear, your world will be colored with situations that validate that fear. It's not punishment, it's not karma in the traditional sense. It is law. It is the law that what you hold in consciousness must be projected outward. It is impossible to continually harbor certain feelings, beliefs, or assumptions and not see them crystallize into form. The outer world is not separate from you. It is you objectified. This is not meant to make you feel guilty or blame yourself for hardships. Instead, it is to awaken you to your power. If your reality is created from within, then you have the ability to change it from the inside out. You are never stuck. You are never bound by what seems to be. You are only bound by what you assume to be true. This is the great secret hidden in plain sight, that life is consciousness. That entire world is consciousness, and your individual consciousness draws to you everything that aligns with it. Like a magnet, you attract what corresponds to your state of being, and this happens with perfect accuracy, not sometimes but always. You don't need to announce your inner state. You don't need to explain it or prove it. The world knows it. It responds to it. The people you meet will unconsciously mirror back your dominant assumptions. If you believe you are loved, you will encounter love. If you believe you are rejected, you will feel that rejection again and again, even if no one speaks a word. It is all a dance of energy, a constant outpicturing of the unseen. It's easy to blame others. It's easy to point the finger and say, they hurt me, or life is unfair. But all that does is give your power away. It places the control outside of you when it has always been within. When you understand that your outer life is a mirror of your inner state, you stop arguing with the reflection. You stop trying to polish the mirror and instead change what it's reflecting. The moment you become aware of your own assumptions is the moment you begin to reclaim your creative power. Assumptions are not merely surface-level thoughts. They are the beliefs you hold so deeply you don't even question them. You live from them. You act as if they are fact, and so they become fact in your world. If you assume you are not good enough, life will keep giving you proof of that. Not because it's true in any ultimate sense, but because that's the signal you're sending out. And the world, being neutral and obedient to the inner man, simply reflects it back. This is why people can change jobs, change relationships, change cities, and still feel the same pain. Because unless the inner pattern changes, the outer world must repeat the same lessons in different forms. Your circumstances may shift, but if your inner state is the same, the outcomes will remain familiar. It is not the environment that shapes you, it is your belief about the environment. It is your interpretation, your emotional state, your assumptions that breathe life into the world you walk through. Your identity is the lens through which you interpret everything. An identity is made up of what you accept to be true of yourself. If you accept lack, you live in lack. If you accept abundance, you begin to notice opportunities where others see none. The world doesn't change, your awareness changes. And as your awareness changes, so does your experience. This is why someone can be surrounded by love and not feel it, because their internal state rejects it. And another person, even alone, can feel deeply connected and whole because they have assumed love within. The world is neutral until you give it meaning. But the meaning you assign it always stems from the inner pattern you carry. If you believe the world is full of danger, even the smallest uncertainty will trigger panic. If you believe you are supported, even setbacks will be met with peace and confidence. You do not see the world as it is, you see it as you are. And when you truly accept that everything around you is simply a reflection, you stop trying to fix the world and start healing yourself. You start choosing thoughts with care, not because you fear the consequences, but because you understand the creative power they hold. Feelings are not random. They are not passive. They are creative forces. When you dwell in a feeling, you are planting a seed. And if you remain in that feeling, the seed must grow. You may not see the harvest immediately, but it is growing silently beneath the surface. Every emotion you entertain for long enough begins to shape your world. You can't stay in the state of fear and hope for a life of joy. You can't carry the feeling of rejection and expect to be embraced. You must become the version of yourself who already lives in the desired reality. Not someday, not after conditions change. Now, in consciousness. This is not positive thinking. It is deeper than that. It is assumption. It is alignment. It is the recognition that your world is the outer expression of the inner man, and that man is made not by what he does, but by what he accepts as true of himself. And so you must be ruthlessly honest with yourself. What do you believe about yourself, about others, about life? What assumptions are you carrying that no longer serve you? What story are you telling within that the world is faithfully acting out? You have the power to revise your beliefs, to shift your state and to choose a new assumption. And the moment you do, the world begins to rearrange itself to match. You won't always see it instantly, but it is happening. Just like you don't see a seed sprout the moment you bury it, but the process has begun. It is the unseen realm of consciousness that holds the power, and you are in command of it, not by force, but by focus, not by pleading, but by assuming. You are not required to prove anything to anyone. You are required only to enter the state and persist. And when you do, the reflection must change. Imagination is not something reserved for artists, poets, or children. It is the very creative power of your being. It is not a faculty to be entertained during idle moments. It is the essence of creation itself. Every image you dwell on, every scene you construct in your mind, every daydream you feel with intensity is forming the substance of your future. What you imagine with belief and emotional involvement becomes your reality. This is not theory, it is law. You do not need to wait for conditions to improve or for someone to help you. The workshop of your future is within you, in the silent theater of your imagination. That is where the true creation takes place. All things exist in the imagination first. Nothing in the outer world appears without being imagined first by someone, somewhere. The clothes you wear, the chair you sit on, the phone in your hand, every object in your environment began as a thought in someone's mind. And so it is with your life. The experiences you live through today are the result of what you have accepted in imagination, whether consciously or unconsciously. The moment you imagine a scene and feel it as real, you set a process in motion. It may be invisible to the physical senses, but it is as real and active as the seed planted in the soil. Just because you cannot see it does not mean it is not growing. Imagination is the seed, and life is the harvest. You do not need to see how it will happen, you only need to imagine the end. The mind loves to ask how, but the creative force within you is not concerned with the mechanics. It works through channels known and unknown, through ways that may seem miraculous. But it always works in harmony with your assumption. When you dare to imagine something greater than what you presently see, and you feel it as if it were already true, you are claiming your rightful power. You are not pretending. You are not escaping reality. You are shaping it. Imagination is the act of assuming control of your world. And the moment you step into the state of the wish fulfilled, everything begins to move in that direction. This inner act is simple, yet most overlook it because it seems too easy. The mind conditioned by effort and struggle resists the idea that imagining and believing could bring about tangible results. Yet this is how all change begins. You must see yourself as you wish to be, and not just see it, you must feel it, live it inwardly, move within it in consciousness. If you wish to be free from a limitation, you do not focus on the limitation. You rise above it in imagination. You create a new scene, one where the limitation is absent, and you enter that scene with all your senses. You see through those eyes, hear those sounds, feel the texture of that reality. It must become natural to you, familiar, lived in. Then, and only then, does the outer world yield. The imagination is more than a place of pictures. It is a vibrational field. When you imagine a new state and accept it as true, you begin to emit a new frequency. That frequency draws to you people, circumstances, and events that match the feeling of your imagined state. It is not magic, it is alignment. The outer is always matching the inner. So the question is not, what do I want? The question is, what am I imagining? What am I feeling? What am I living inwardly day after day? Most people imagine passively. They let their imagination run wild with fear, doubt, and worst-case scenarios. They replay painful memories and dwell in worry. Then they wonder why their life seems chaotic or stuck. But you can reverse this. You can discipline your imagination to create only what you desire. You can use it as the sacred tool it is. Begin to assume the best. Begin to imagine lovingly for yourself and for others. Imagine what you want, not what you fear. Imagine success, joy, harmony, fulfillment, and do it with feeling. The feeling is the key. When the imagined scene feels natural and you believe in its truth, even if your senses contradict it, you have planted the seed. Now your task is to persist in that inner state. You don't need to repeat it mechanically, you need to return to it emotionally. Make it your dwelling place. Make it the new normal within. When doubts arise, do not fight them. Gently return to the scene. Return to the feeling. Return to the knowing. This inner persistence shapes the outer form. It molds the world quietly, invisibly, faithfully. You may not see results instantly, and that's fine. You do not dig up the seed to check on its progress. You trust. You nourish the feeling. You live in the end, not in hope or desire, but in the assumption that it already is. That is the secret power of imagination. It allows you to move beyond the senses and walk in a new state before it has materialized. It allows you to claim the unseen as real and bring it into being. And when you do this consistently, your world will reflect it with unwavering accuracy. Every great change, every breakthrough, every success has first been imagined. Those who achieve great things are not lucky, they are focused. They have learned to use imagination consciously, deliberately, and with faith. They do not bow to facts, they honor their inner vision. And eventually, the world conforms to it. Not by chance, not by effort alone, but by law. Your imagination is not limited. You can go anywhere in thought, you can be anyone in feeling, you can experience any scene you desire. And the more you do this with sincerity and repetition, the more your life must match that inner reality. So when you look at your current circumstances and see something lacking, remember that what you see is old news. It is the result of previous imaginings. Do not give it power. Instead, turn inward. Close your eyes. See the life you desire. Feel it, hear it, know it. Make it real within, and the outer must yield. This is the power you were born with. This is the secret that has been hidden not because it is difficult, but because it is so simple. You are imagining all day long. The only question is, are you doing it deliberately or by default? The power is always yours. Use it wisely. To live from the end is to step into the feeling of the wish fulfilled and make it your dwelling place. It is to act, think, feel, and respond from the standpoint that your desire is already a fact. It is not about hoping, waiting, or wishing. It is not about looking for signs or seeking confirmation from the outer world. It is about choosing to believe with such conviction that the invisible becomes more real to you than anything you can see, hear, or touch. The end is not a distant goal. It is a state of consciousness. And you have the ability to enter it right now without needing a single thing to change outside of you. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are not trying to convince yourself with words alone. You are choosing to inhabit a new inner reality, one that matches the outcome you desire. You see through the eyes of the version of you who already has it. You feel with their heart. You carry yourself with the peace, confidence, and joy of one who knows it is already done. You walk differently. You think differently. You speak differently. Not to impress others, but because your state has changed. And all outer expression flows from inner being. The mistake many make is to imagine what they want, but continue to live from the feeling of not having it. They may create beautiful scenes in their minds, but they revisit them as a stranger, an outsider looking in. There is longing, distance, and emotional separation from the desire. But to truly assume the state, you must feel from it. Not feel toward it, you must own it, live in it, occupy it like a home. And the more natural this state becomes, the faster the outer world aligns with it. Not because you forced it, but because it must reflect what you are. The world is never creating for you, it is only reflecting your assumptions. If you believe something is already yours, your actions, thoughts, and emotions align with that truth. You no longer try to make it happen. You no longer seek it from a place of lack. You no longer wonder when it will come. You know it is done, and because of that you allow. You let go of the struggle, the effort, the urgency. You relax into the state of being, and from that stillness, things begin to move. Not because you chased them, but because you became aligned with them. The inner world is the only real world, and the outer world is its shadow. When you persist in a state inwardly, the outer must take shape accordingly. Even if things appear unchanged at first, you do not waver. You remain loyal to the unseen reality you've chosen. This is the real meaning of faith. Not blind belief in something external, but an inner knowing. a deep conviction that what you have imagined and felt is already yours. You trust the law, you trust the process, and you trust yourself as the operant power. Every time you return to the old state, the one filled with doubt, lack, or fear, you delay the fulfillment of your desire, not because anything is denied you, but because you are no longer aligned with its vibration. You are no longer living in the end. So the practice is to catch yourself when you drift, not with guilt or self-judgment, but with awareness and compassion. You simply bring yourself back. You remember who you are, what you've claimed, and what it feels like to already have it. And you dwell there again with confidence, as many times as it takes until it becomes your natural home. To feel the wish fulfilled is not to ignore reality. It is to acknowledge that reality is pliable, ever-changing, and subject to your inner state. It is not set in stone. It is not final. It is a reflection of the past state of being, and the moment you change that inner state, you begin to mold the future. So you must become very selective with what you accept as true. You must turn away from appearances that contradict your desire, not with resistance, but with indifference. You know they are echoes, not prophecy. You know they are old manifestations that have no power unless you choose to react. When you truly feel from the end, you move through life with a quiet confidence. You do not need to convince anyone of your worth, because you know you are already living in the reality you desire. You do not compete, chase, or beg. You attract, you magnetize, you draw all things to you by the tone of your being. This is not arrogance, it is spiritual authority. It is the posture of one who has claimed dominion over their inner world and no longer allows outer facts to dictate their emotional state. You are not waiting for the desire to come. You are living from the place where it already is. You are not hoping to receive. You are expressing gratitude as one who already has. And this gratitude is not a technique to manipulate reality. It is the natural result of assuming the end. When you truly believe something is yours, your heart opens. You feel the joy of it. You celebrate it inwardly. You carry the vibration of fulfillment, and that vibration moves mountains, rearranges circumstances, and calls forth everything required for the desire to take form. All transformation begins within. All creation starts with a decision to feel from the end, no matter what the senses report. This is not denial, it is mastery. You are mastering your own mind, your own emotional world, your own attention. You are learning to place your consciousness where you choose, rather than where old patterns try to pull you. And the more you dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the stronger that pattern becomes. Eventually it becomes effortless, it becomes who you are. And once that happens, there is nothing more to do. The outer world will catch up. It always does, because it must, because it is law. Persistence is the golden thread that holds the unseen and the seen together. It is the invisible bridge between the assumption and its manifestation. It is not enough to imagine a scene once, to feel the state for a moment and then forget it the next time reality contradicts you. If you do not persist in the new state, the old one reclaims its throne. The mind is like fertile soil. It does not discriminate. Whatever you plant in it consistently will grow. And so if you are not vigilant, if you do not persist in the assumption of your desire fulfilled, you will find yourself returning to the old patterns, the old reactions, and the old outcomes. Persistence is not struggle. It is not forcing or resisting. It is gentle, calm, unwavering repetition of the new state. It is a soft but firm refusal to accept anything less than what you have claimed in consciousness. The world may shout contradictions, but you remain still within. You return again and again to the seen, to the feeling, to the knowing. You do not fight the outer world. You simply ignore it. You live so deeply in the inner world that the outer must eventually conform. That is the great secret. The outer world is slow to respond, but respond it must. And the longer you persist, the closer you draw the bridge from imagination to reality. Doubt is the thief of manifestations. It sneaks in not always as loud disbelief, but often as subtle questioning. Is it really working? Why hasn't it happened yet? What if I'm doing it wrong? These thoughts are not signs of failure, but they are invitations to return to the old self. They are tests, echoes of the past, trying to pull you back into the vibration that created the life you are trying to move beyond. But you are not required to listen, you are not required to entertain them. You may acknowledge the thought and gently choose again. You return to your new state and you persist. Persistence is an act of love. It is choosing to honor your new self, your desired self, even when the senses do not agree. It is refusing to betray your inner truth just because the outer world has not caught up. It is faith in motion. And faith, when sustained through persistence, becomes a force that bends time, bends matter, bends probability. You are not waiting for evidence. You become the embodiment of the thing long before it appears. And when it does appear, it feels natural. Because you have lived it inwardly so many times, it is no surprise. It is fulfillment, not shock. Do not confuse persistence with resistance. Resistance is fueled by fear, by a sense of lack, by desperation to make something happen. Persistence is grounded in peace, in confidence, in the quiet knowing that what you feel inside must externalize in due season. You do not persist with anxiety, you persist with assurance. The inner work is not measured by how intensely you strive, but by how consistently you remain, even when nothing seems to change, even when doubts whisper louder, even when the world looks completely opposed to what you desire, you stay in the state. You don't argue with reality. You outgrow it. There will be moments when the outer world tries to provoke a reaction. And in those moments, you must remember that every reaction is a choice. You can choose to reaffirm the old reality by reacting with fear or frustration, or you can choose to remain inwardly aligned with your vision. This is where true power is exercised, not in changing the world, but in mastering the self. You are not required to fix anything out there. You are required only to persist in the new assumption. The world will fix itself in response to your steadiness. Some may ask, how long must I persist? And the answer is simple: until the assumption hardens into fact. Until you no longer need to remember the feeling of the wish fulfilled because it has become your dominant vibration. Until you find yourself responding to life not from desire, but from fulfillment. It does not take time in the traditional sense. It takes consistency. It takes living from the end so completely that the old self has no more hold on you, and when you reach that point, the outer must reflect it. The universe has no choice but to obey the new order impressed upon it by your consciousness. Persistence is also an antidote to impatience. The impatient one is still looking to the outer world for proof. They are measuring progress by appearances. But the one who persists has already received. They are not seeking, they are knowing. And that knowing is what fuels the inner repetition. You do not grow tired of repeating a state when it feels good, when it feels true, when it feels like home. It is not a burden. It becomes a joy, a place of refuge, a source of strength. The more you persist in it, the more it stabilizes. It becomes your natural dwelling place, your home within, and soon the outer world must follow. There is no magic moment when the world changes. Often it is subtle, a shift in a conversation, a random opportunity, a door opening that was always there but now seems to appear out of nowhere. But to the one who has persisted, these are not surprises, they are affirmations. They are confirmations of what was already accepted as true within. The world becomes the echo, the mirror, the response to the sustained inner voice. And so, the only real work is to stay. Stay in the assumption, stay in the vision, stay in the knowing, not as a task, but as a way of being. Every time you return to the state of the wish fulfilled, you are watering the seed. Every time you refuse to be moved by facts and choose feeling instead, you are reinforcing the pattern. And every time you hold your ground when the old world tries to pull you back, you are claiming dominion over your reality. The seed does not need to be replanted. It needs to be nourished. And your imagination, your focus, your emotional loyalty. These are the waters of growth. You are not repeating to convince life. You are repeating to remind yourself. You are returning again and again to the feeling until it becomes so deeply ingrained that nothing can shake it. This is what changes everything. This is the unseen labor that gives birth to the visible form. Creation is finished. Everything you could ever desire, dream of, hope for, or imagine already exists in the invisible realm of being. There is nothing new to be created, only states to be entered, assumed, and embodied. When you grasp this truth, you stop striving, you stop chasing, and you begin to select. Just as you would choose one garment over another, you choose the state of consciousness you wish to occupy. You do not need to force anything into existence, because in truth, it already is. Your only task is to become the version of yourself who already has it. That version already lives in you, waiting to be activated, waiting to be acknowledged. Everything exists now. There is no future in consciousness, only the eternal now. What you call the future is simply the present rearranged to reflect your current state of being. And since all states exist, you are never creating something from nothing. You are merely stepping into that which has always been. The moment you imagine something with clarity and feel it with conviction, you are not initiating the process of creation. You are aligning yourself with a state that has always existed. That state is as real as any other. It is waiting for your attention, your focus, your belief to give it life in your world. The key to stepping into the state is assumption. Not effort, not trying, not wishing, but assuming it is already so. Assumption is an act of faith. It is saying, this is who I am, regardless of what the senses say. It is choosing your reality from within, not waiting for the outer to confirm it. And the moment you assume a new state and persist in it, your world must reorganize to match. Not because you forced it, but because you have moved vibrationally into a different frequency of being, and your outer life is nothing but a reflection of that inner arrangement. This is why imagination is sacred. It is not idle fantasy. It is the creative engine of your life. When you imagine a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire and you feel it as real, you have entered that state. You have selected it. And from that moment it begins to express itself in your world. But most people abandon it too soon. They dip into the new state, feel it briefly, and then return to the old one because of appearances. They believe the world must change first, but the world is only ever following orders. It follows your inner world faithfully, without delay, when you persist, without contradiction. Since all states exist, you are not becoming something new, you are revealing it. You are uncovering what has been buried beneath layers of false belief, old identity, and conditioned limitation. The version of you who is wealthy, healthy, free, loved, and fulfilled already exists. They are not outside of you, they are within you. And the way to experience their life is to step into their perspective now, see as they would see, feel as they would feel, think as they would think. You do not wait for evidence to convince you. You assume it into being, and the evidence appears as a result. There is nothing outside of consciousness. Your entire world is yourself, pushed out, shaped, and colored by the state you are in. And since all states exist, you are free to move between them at will. No one can stop you. No one can lock you into a state unless you agree to stay there. Even the most persistent outer condition is only sustained by a matching inner assumption. Change that assumption and the outer must follow. It is not personal. It is not punishment. It is law. Every time you feel stuck, it is not because something is missing. It is because you are dwelling in a state that reflects limitation. But the door to freedom is always open. The invitation is always present. You can step out of the state of lack and into the state of abundance simply by assuming it to be true. Not once, but repeatedly, until it becomes natural. And then life mirrors it. This is not wishful thinking. It is precise alignment. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are the one who gives them permission to be. When you understand that creation is finished, you stop asking, when will it happen? And you start asking, who am I being? Because that is the real question. You cannot experience what you have not become. You cannot receive what you have not first accepted as true within. And the beauty of this is that it puts the power back in your hands. You are not waiting for fate or chance or time. You are choosing, you are selecting. And every moment of consciousness is a moment of creation, not because you are building from scratch, but because you are aligning with what already is. There is a version of you who already lives the life you desire. They are not far away. They are not fictional. They are simply unclaimed. The way to bring that version into your experience is to think from their perspective, speak from their certainty, act from their confidence, and dwell in their feelings. That is how you collapse the distance between now and someday. That is how you make the invisible visible. You do not need to know the steps. You do not need to control the details. The how is never your concern. Your only concern is being. The rest flows from that.